Frank Sullivan set his coffee mug down as the landline phone on his kitchen table cut through the morning quiet.
Mr. Sullivan, this is Catherine Hayes from First Allegheny Bank. I need verbal confirmation for a $4.2 million SBA loan. The signature is yours, but protocol requires a live voice.
I signed nothing.
The loan application lists you as co-borrower with your son, Justin Sullivan. Can you confirm you authorized this?
Let me make sure I understand. You're calling to confirm a loan I supposedly co-signed for my son.
Yes, sir. The documents have your signature. I just need your verbal okay.
Justin never asked, and the ink wasn't even dry on his own lies. Mrs. Hayes, I'll need to discuss this in person. I'll be at your office in 1 hour.
Of course, Mr. Sullivan. I'll be here.
Frank set the phone down. His hand was steady, but something cold had just entered the quiet kitchen. Frank pushed back from the kitchen table and grabbed his keys without a second glance. The sedan's interior was cold. He sat behind the wheel, staring through the windshield.
Justin, what have you done?
An old photograph tucked in the sun visor fell into his lap. Justin at 6, beaming beside a stack of history books.
I taught him that history demands honesty, that nothing built on lies stands.
He slid the photo back. The time to call his son would come. This was not that time. The sedan moved through the suburbs, past the high school where Frank had shaped young minds for decades.
Integrity is not a gift, it's a daily choice.
First Allegheny Bank rose ahead, its signage sharp against the gray sky, the glass doors reflecting nothing but clouds. He parked and let the engine die. Looking down at his hand, the gold wedding band seemed heavier than it ever had. Frank entered the bank lobby. Catherine Hayes rose from her desk, her face guarded.
Mr. Sullivan, the investigator is waiting in the conference room.
In the conference room, David Miller examined the loan application through a magnifier, the forged signature circled in red.
Is this your signature, Mr. Sullivan? A $4.2 million loan for your son's restaurant.
The slant is too sharp. Justin's confidence outpaced his honesty. No, I never signed that, and I never agreed to any loan.
We can flag this for prosecution immediately. Do you want to press charges against your son?
I want you to approve it. Put a trace on the funds and get the FBI. Let him feel safe first.
It's unorthodox, but we can make it work. I'll call the FBI this afternoon.
Outside, under a steel gray sky, Catherine shook Frank's hand. She watched him walk to his sedan, the weight of the decision in his calm stride. 2 days later, the landline rang again. Catherine's voice carried the confirmation. The loan was approved, flagged, and already under FBI surveillance.
Thank you, Catherine. Let it move forward.
That afternoon, his cell phone buzzed. The screen glowed with a single name: Justin.
Hello, son.
Dad, they funded the loan. I can't believe it. You really came through for me.
Came through. He has no idea what I've actually done. I'm glad it worked out, Justin. You needed the boost.
Boost. Dad, this changes everything. The restaurant group is going to be huge. I'm already talking to designers.
You just signed your own warrant.
The call ended. Frank set the phone down and sat in the growing shadows of his kitchen, the coffee untouched, the weight heavier than before. Catherine's next call provided the first forensic snapshot. The loan had landed, and Justin's hands were already in the cash.
He wired $1.8 million to American Express and 3 other creditors within 48 hours.
Debt, not business. He's burying himself faster than I anticipated.
At his condo, Justin posed beside a new Maserati, a lease payout of nearly $900,000 posted to social media within minutes.
When you've got the backing, you show it.
Frank pulled up the bank statement Catherine had forwarded, his thumb scrolling past the restaurant designer's invoice, palatial but unpaid.
A vanity project before the foundation is even poured.
Catherine sent another transmission. The FBI had flagged the transactions. The net was tightening. But protocol demanded patience. Frank opened a new folder on his desktop. He typed Justin, chronology, and began pasting screenshots, building a timeline no jury could ignore. Then he closed the laptop and sat back in his armchair. Outside, a neighbor's sprinkler clicked on, oblivious. The wait had only just begun. Frank watched the condo remodel unfold on Justin's social feed: granite countertops, automated shades, a wine cellar where the guest bedroom used to be.
A little touch of Tuscany from our new kitchen designer. Justin deserves it.
He deserves a prison cell, not a wine cellar.
Meanwhile, Justin hired a high-end restaurant architect, signing a contract for $1.4 million, the paperwork listing Frank as guarantor again.
This place is going to redefine dining in Pittsburgh, my mark on the city.
That night, Frank's sleep brought a courtroom. He saw his own hands resting on the witness stand, Justin's face pale across the aisle.
This is what I'm building toward.
He woke in the dark, his chest tight, the image of his son in handcuffs lingering behind his eyes.
Frank, the trail is irrefutable. We have every wire, every invoice. We just need the go-ahead from the U.S. attorney.
He stepped outside to water the geraniums, the hose trembling in his grip. But the soil was already saturated. His mind had been elsewhere all morning. The invitation for Luciano's arrived on a Wednesday. Frank buttoned his cardigan and went, because a refusal would ask questions he couldn't yet answer.
Amanda tilted her neck so the diamond pendant caught the light. Justin says the loan is just the start of a legacy.
A legacy built on forged ink, and I'm the inkwell.
To Dad, you made all this possible. I won't forget what you did.
Frank's hand closed around the wine glass. He didn't lift it. The stem was cold, just like the feeling settling in his chest.
4.2 million is a vote of confidence. You must have great faith in your son's vision.
I have faith in the federal government.
You're going to be so proud, Dad. I'm putting your name on the founder's plaque.
Frank cut his steak into small, precise squares. Each bite was a lesson in swallowing something hard. Later, in the sedan, he didn't start the engine. The restaurant's glow was still in the rear view when he finally turned the key. A week after the dinner, Frank detoured past the restaurant site. The sign was up, but the windows were still hollow.
Half finished. Like Justin's story.
Catherine's voice on the phone was clinical. The SBA account had dropped below minimum balance, and 2 contractor checks had bounced.
His burn rate is catastrophic. The FBI says he's 3 weeks from insolvency.
Justin retaliated by firing the foreman publicly, shouting about shoddy work. The mechanic's lien arrived at the county recorder that afternoon.
Incompetence. I'll sue them for delay. They don't know who they're dealing with.
Justin, I can't even book a spa day. You said this would be easy.
Frank cataloged every piece: the bounced check notice, the lien filing, a screenshot of Amanda's now deleted complaint post.
The trap is tightening on its own. All I have to do is not reach out.
He waited. He knew what desperate men did. 2 days after the lien filing, Justin's Maserati pulled into Frank's driveway without warning, a thick folder under his arm.
Dad, I need you to co-sign one more document, just an emergency line of credit for the restaurant.
I can't risk my entire retirement security, Justin. The first loan already stretched everything I have.
Risk? You've got nothing to risk. You sit in this house doing nothing while I'm trying to build an empire.
Mr. Sullivan, he's barely sleeping. The restaurant will succeed, I promise. Just give him this chance.
You've already taken enough. More than either of you can possibly fathom right now.
Fine. You're not my father anymore. You're just an obstacle.
The door shuddered in its frame, and the silence that followed was colder than any argument.
He's forcing my hand faster than I anticipated. I'll need to call Catherine. Catherine, he's unraveling. Tell Agent Torres the timeline may need to move up.
Frank caught his own reflection that evening, a tired man, thinner than he remembered, the gray cardigan hanging looser on his shoulders.
It's not my heart giving out. It's what I'm about to do to my own son.
The next morning, Catherine led him into an FBI conference room. Agent Rebecca Torres had already pinned the financial timeline to the whiteboard.
Frank, your hands are shaking. When did you last sleep through the night?
I'll sleep when this is over. Agent Torres, what's the shortest path?
The U.S. attorney signed off this morning. We can move within 14 days, morning raid, simultaneous warrants at his home and the restaurant site.
2 weeks. I've waited months. I can hold that long.
You'll receive a call when we're en route. Stay visible, stay routine. Nothing changes.
Frank stood to leave, and for a moment the room swam. He gripped the chair back, exhaled, and forced a nod. Outside, he sat on a bench in the small park across from the federal building, watching the first autumn leaves twist to the ground. Frank returned from the park to find Amanda's sedan blocking his driveway. She was already at the door, clutching a bank envelope.
I cleaned Justin's office and found this statement. It's marked FBI notification and lists you as the sole recipient.
She's too close. One more question and the whole operation could bleed out on this kitchen floor. It's co-borrower paperwork. Standard procedure, the bank sends one copy to each party. Nothing unusual.
Then why are there handwritten notes about wire transfers? Justin always said the business would handle all banking.
I'm old school, Amanda. I don't trust digital records, I write things down. Justin knows.
Amanda stood motionless for a full 3 seconds, the envelope crumpling in her tightened grip. Then she turned sharply and left. Frank locked the deadbolt with a quiet click. His next move was to dial Catherine, his thumb pressing the number harder than necessary.
She found the bank copy, Catherine. She's asking questions. If she tells Justin, he'll run. We can't wait 2 weeks.
I'm calling Torres now. We'll assemble the team tonight. Expect the raid at 6 a.m. tomorrow morning.
Frank had barely set down the phone when the front door shuddered under Justin's pounding, Amanda's sedan idling behind him.
What did you say to my wife? She came home in tears, waving some bank statement you called nothing unusual.
Amanda told him, but she didn't tell him everything. He's still in the dark about the FBI. Your wife was concerned. I explained that the bank statement was a standard co-borrower copy. Nothing more.
Standard, then? Why were there notes about wire transfers? You've been tracking our money, you bitter old man.
Instead of interrogating me, you should be asking yourself what you've done with that loan.
You always doubted me. Even when I made something of myself, you sat in this house like a jealous ghost.
If only you knew that the ghost you're mocking is the one who summoned the FBI. The truth always comes out, son, and when it does, you'll understand why I've acted as I have.
The Maserati roared away. Frank sat alone in the dark kitchen, the clock ticking toward 6 a.m., the line he could never uncross. He moved to the porch in the deep chill of early morning, the street lamp casting a thin pool of light.
Could I go back inside and pretend this wasn't happening? The thought lingered, then passed.
Catherine's voice came through the cell phone at 5:15. Steady as a metronome, the team was en route. Raid at 6.
Torres says to keep your phone on. You'll hear the confirmation once the warrant is served.
We'll contain him before he can delete anything. He won't see the handcuffs coming.
36 years I taught that character is what you do when no one is watching. Tonight, everyone is watching. I won't call him. I won't warn him. He wrote the lesson himself.
Dawn came gray and quiet. Frank buttoned his cardigan and sat on the porch, the phone resting face up on his knee. Across the street, a neighbor's light blinked on. By 6, the phone would ring, and nothing would ever be the same. At the FBI staging area, Agent Torres gave the final nod. The unmarked van began to roll toward Justin's condo. In the unmarked van, Agent Torres tightened her tactical vest and gave a silent hand signal. The team flowed out into the gray dawn.
Approach vector is green. The condo is dark. I want the door breached in 30 seconds.
At 6:03, Frank's cell phone vibrated against his knee. Catherine's name filled the screen.
It's happening now. Torres just gave the go command. Keep the line open, Frank.
My hand is shaking. I taught him to catch a baseball with this hand.
Through the phone, Frank heard the ram strike the door once, twice, then the crack of splintering wood.
FBI. Search warrant. We have a federal warrant.
Frank pressed the phone harder to his ear, his knuckles white. He could hear muffled voices, then a crash.
Command. We have eyes on the primary. Suspect is contained. No shots fired.
Frank lowered the phone. In the silence that followed, a single tear traced the line of his jaw. Inside the condo, agents pulled Justin from the bedroom in handcuffs, his shirt untucked, his eyes wide with disbelief.
What is this? You can't just break in here, Justin. Tell them who your father is.
Justin Sullivan, you are under arrest for bank fraud, wire fraud, and elder financial exploitation. You have the right to remain silent.
Elder exploitation? That's my father. He signed the loan. Call him. He'll tell you this is a mistake.
Through the phone, Frank heard his son's voice high and thin, calling for a savior who had already sealed his fate.
He still believes I'll rescue him. He doesn't see that the rescue never came.
Frank pressed the end call button. The line went dead, and with it, the last thread that tied him to the lie. Amanda's screams echoed down the hallway as agents led Justin past the Maserati in the drive, its vanity plate catching the morning light. An agent sealed the condo door with FBI tape, a yellow stripe across the wine cellar entrance, now a crime scene. Frank remained on the porch. The morning sun had risen fully, but it brought no warmth. He had won, and the victory was cold. Within the month, Amanda packed the remaining Gucci bags and posted a single broken heart to her feed. The condo echoed, empty.
It was always his mess.
9 days after the raid, Justin stood in court, an orange jumpsuit swallowing him, and heard the word denied. Bail was unattainable. His eyes scanned the gallery for a father who wasn't there. Frank's cell phone buzzed that evening. The caller ID read Pittsburgh Federal Public Defender. He pressed voicemail. Mr. Sullivan, this is Justin's attorney. He needs your testimony to show family support. Will you help?
Help the son who tried to bury me in debt? No.
He silenced the phone and drove to the one place that still made sense. The high school, now dark after hours. In the history classroom, desks stood empty. He sat in the back, a student to his own failure.
The trial is coming, and I'll have to face him then.
In the prosecutor's office, Frank spread out the chronology he had built. Every wire, every screenshot, every lie.
I'll testify. I want the jury to understand that this wasn't a mistake. It was a deliberate fraud against his own family.
Justin's defense attorney filed a motion to suppress, arguing Frank had been manipulated by overzealous bank officials into participating in a sting. Catherine took the stand first, her voice unwavering as she detailed the bank's anomalous account flags and the FBI referral.
She's telling the truth, and it's all pointing at my son.
On cross-examination, the defense implied Frank had orchestrated the entire scheme to punish Justin for perceived slights. The judge denied the motion to suppress. The evidence would stand. Frank was called. He walked to the witness stand, placing his hand on the worn Bible, the gray cardigan soft under the courtroom lights.
For 36 years, I taught the difference between right and wrong. Now the jury will watch me live it.
He adjusted his cardigan, faced the courtroom, and the first question fell into the silence like a stone. The prosecutor's question cut through the courtroom like a blade. Why hadn't Frank simply called the police?
I needed him to feel the full weight of the law, not just my disappointment. A warning would have taught him nothing.
At the defense table, Justin's eyes narrowed. He mouthed the silent fury. You're dead.
He still doesn't see that he's the author of this tragedy.
Frank kept his voice level as he recounted the call from the bank, the meeting with Catherine and David, the deliberate choice to let the loan flow into his son's hands.
I documented every wire transfer. I watched him buy a Maserati, renovate his condo with a wine cellar, and start a restaurant with money that was never his.
The jurors began to write. The gallery leaned forward.
These are the faces I taught for decades. Now they sit in judgment of my son.
The prosecutor nodded and took her seat. The courtroom was silent, the air thick with the weight of testimony. The defense attorney stood, but before he could speak, the judge's gavel came down once, sharp and final. The courtroom was adjourned for the day. The sentencing hearing drew a packed courtroom. Reporters, bank officials, former students who remembered the teacher Frank had been.
Mr. Sullivan, the court recognizes your right to make a victim statement. Would you like to speak?
Frank stood slowly, smoothing his gray cardigan. The room reduced to a held breath.
I taught American history for 36 years. I taught my son the same lessons every other child got. Some of them refused to learn.
Across the aisle, Justin's hands trembled, but his expression was unyielding stone. The judge's voice was measured, carrying no pity.
Justin Sullivan, you are sentenced to 7 years in federal prison. This court is adjourned.
The gavel fell once, a clean final stroke that split the air. Frank moved down the aisle without a glance at his son. The gray cardigan caught the light from the high windows. Outside, the autumn air cut softly, and Frank Sullivan started the long walk to his car alone. On the courthouse steps, Frank lingered, the cold stone against his back. He took one deep breath, then another. A newsstand sold him the afternoon edition. The headline read, "Son Sentenced." He folded it once and tucked it under his arm. The sedan's engine turned over with a familiar grind, but the drive home felt lighter, the autumn sun slanting through the windshield. In his kitchen, Frank filled the coffee maker and watched the brown liquid drip into the carafe, a ritual unchanged by the months of chaos.
The coffee smells the same as it always did. So much has changed, but this hasn't.
He set the coffee on the table next to a stack of literacy essays. The top page bore a wobbly A from his last session. His red pen hovered over the next essay, an adult learner's attempt at a paragraph. He wrote excellent in the margin with a steady hand.
These students want to learn. That is enough.
He lifted the coffee mug, and for the first time in months, the silence in the kitchen was not a weight, but a companion. Outside the window, dusk settled over the neighborhood. Frank Sullivan was teaching again. Several weeks after the sentencing, a note arrived in Frank's mailbox, the bank's logo on the envelope. Inside, Catherine's handwriting. "Frank, you did the right thing. You reminded this banker what integrity looks like."
Integrity. The lesson I always hoped would take root. It did in a different way.
He tucked the letter beside a framed photo on the shelf. A picture of his former high school students, young faces turned toward the camera. That afternoon, he drove to the community center, a stack of graded essays on the passenger seat.
Afternoon, everyone. I have your essays. You're all improving.
A middle-aged woman looked up from her workbook, her smile reaching her eyes.
Thank you for your patience, Mr. Sullivan. You never give up on us.
Frank allowed himself a rare, full smile, the kind that softens the deepest lines. He opened the workbook and looked at the class with the same calm expectation he'd worn in every classroom for nearly 4 decades. "Let's get started." Frank pulled a worn history book from the shelf and read aloud to his adult students, his voice carrying the same steady cadence from decades prior.
This is what I was always meant to do.
A woman in the front row chuckled at an anecdote from the American Revolution, and the room felt like a classroom once more. Frank paused, letting the laughter settle, the way a good teacher lets a lesson breathe. When the session ended, students gathered their things, voices overlapping in cheerful small talk. Frank stacked the chairs alone in the quiet room, each lift steady and unburdened. He stepped outside as dusk began to stain the sky, the community center's door clicking shut behind him. On the quiet sidewalk, he stopped to watch the last gold of the day spill over the rooftops.
The year ends. The lesson doesn't.
He walked on, his gray cardigan a familiar shape against the amber light, disappearing into the quiet suburban street.